Earl and his gang brutally torture Peter until he finally succumbs to their demands. What is the task that Earl and his group are forcing Peter to do, and how will it impact Quinn? How will Quinn's understanding of Vorden's skills and experience with Power Fighter impact his own approach to training and combat?
With Peter gone, that left Quinn and Vorden on their own. They were currently walking down the high street, which was full of clothes shops and restaurants. Students only received 10 credits a day as an allowance, but that didn't stop their parents from sending them extra money while they were in school. The richer students were free to spend and buy whatever they liked, and sadly the richer students were usually the stronger ones as well. Although the city didn't open up to any regular civilians, it was still open up to all the workers. The city was full of military personnel, but not all of them were soldiers. There were still cooks that were needed, admin staff, engineers, building workers, and even general people who would run the shop. They'd all from the military, and in return were given nice living accommodations and didn't have to worry about life on the outside world. So although they worked for the military, they weren't required to be relied on for fighting unless absolutely necessary. While the two were walking, Quinn couldn't help but think back to the fight between Vorden and Momo. "Hey, Vorden, I know you said your ability resets every day, but you never said you could wield two abilities at once," Quinn asked. "Didn't I?" Vorden said with an awkward smile. "Well, there are some in my family that can even hold 3. "Really? So how does it exactly work?" "Well, if I told you our family secrets, Quinn, you would have to become a part of our family. Either that or I'd have to kill you." For a second there was an awkward silence between the two, as Quinn wasn't sure if Vorden was joking or not. "Relax, will you?" Vorden said. "But yeah, I honestly can't tell you anything. You know, Originals rules and all." Vorden belonged to one of the original families that had decided to keep their ability within their family, meaning the only people that knew how to copy other abilities were the Blades. Of course, Vorden wasn't allowed to talk to anyone about their ability. "Yeah, sorry about that, but if you don't mind me asking, if you copy an ability you've never received before, how are you able to fight with them so well?" "Let me show you something," Vorden said. The two of them continued to walk down the high street, which was filled with shops, until Vorden eventually stopped just outside a game store. The two of them headed inside, and there were all types of games filled on the shelves. At the very back of the shop was a VR pod for people to test out before they bought anything. Just like everything else, even the gaming technology had improved significantly after the war. Then Vorden pointed at the VR capsule. "You see that thing? I grew up playing on that." "What?" Quinn thought. But then Quinn remembered Leo mentioning something about a VR game that was popular between students. He said if he wanted to get fighting experience, it would be good if he played a certain game. Is this what he was talking about? "There's a popular game played in the outside world and within the military schools called Power Fighter. The game is simple. It gives you an open, empty room and the two of you fight until one loses. Although it sounds simple, the game itself is used to help people train. The VR capsule can record all attributes of your body. Anything you do in the real world, you can do in the game. The only thing that it can't do is record your ability." Vorden then walked up to the capsule and touched the front of the capsule where there was a round ring. A holographic display appeared with the game's setting on top. Vorden then placed his hand on the holographic display and a notification sound was heard. "Welcome, user ID VB copy," the machine said. As Vorden logged into the game, his user ID's information could be seen, along with a dummy model of his fighter, which looked nothing like Vorden. It displayed the total number of fights Vorden had and how many wins and losses. Although Vorden quickly went from that screen on to another, too quick for Quinn to see anything. Then Vorden was suddenly on an ability tab. The list seemed almost endless. "Wait, I thought you said the game couldn't record your ability," Quinn asked. "It can't, but so the game was even more realistic, and so it could be used as a training tool, it uploads into its database every ability that is shared out there in the world that we know today. Of course, only the ones that are made public. So original abilities and abilities that have yet to be discovered aren't on this list, including my own. However, I can select any ability I want. Even if I can't perform it in the real world, I can practice with it in the game." Quinn finally understood how Vorden was able to become well adverse with multiple different abilities. This was something that would only greatly benefit someone like him, who was able to use whatever ability he wished. Most people who were playing the game would want to get stronger and better at using their abilities. That meant they would usually only select their own ability, which was the point of selecting something that you could never use in the real world unless you just wanted to have the experience. The game is actually very popular with the other military schools, Vorden continued to explain. So much so that the military has designed its own servers so it only connects to other schools, but you can also just play with the outside world as well. Before you enter the game, you can even input your power level. This way it will match you with those people around the same level. People can lie about their level, but those types of people will never get better at fighting, bullying those weaker than them all the time. Quinn then walked up to the capsule and started to inspect it. It sounded amazing and was exactly what Quinn needed. This way he was able to practice against other students without others realizing it was him. Then, when Quinn lifted up the tag on it, there were more zeros on the thing than he had ever seen before. There was no way he could afford such a thing. Maybe some of the other students who could be sent credits from their family, but not Quinn. Vorden started to laugh. "Don't worry about it. You don't need to buy one yourself. The academy has a room full of them." "Really? Come on, let's head back and give it a go." The sun was starting to set outside, so it was just the right time for Vorden and Quinn to head back to the academy, and when they did, they immediately went over to the VR room. Just like the capsule in the shop, it was a room filled with rows and rows containing capsules, and off to the side was a small shop and counter where students were able to buy snacks and refreshments. The room was currently packed with students, just as Vorden and Leo had said. The game was incredibly popular. Looking at the excitement in the students' eyes and faces, Quinn started to feel upset. It felt like there was a world he never got to experience growing up just because he was poor. The two of them went up to the front counter that was stationed next to the small cafe. "Hi, we would like to rent out 2 capsules, please?" Vorden asked. "A single capsule will cost you 10 credits per hour," the female replied. Hearing that number made Quinn gulp. For some reason he had expected the capsules to be free, but of course, they would have to pay to rent them. With Quinn's 10 credits he received a day, at most he could play the game for was an hour a day. He didn't need the money for anything else. After all, the school provided the accommodation and 3 meals a day for them. "All right, are you ready?" Vorden asked. "Huh? What did you pay?" "Yeah, don't worry about it. Come on, let's go." The woman behind the counter had handed Vorden 2 tags numbered 23 and 24. The two of them walked around the room until they had found 2 capsules next to each other. They both had large numbers displayed on the front of the capsule in big bold ink. "Here we are," Vorden said. "With these capsules, they're only able to link to the military servers. You can find with others from the schools, but you won't be able to connect it to the normal servers. You will need to buy your own capsule for that. When you log into the game, you can play as a guest for now, and just search for the ID VB copy and join my room when you can." With that, the two of them slowly climbed into the VR capsule. When the machine sensed they were both comfortably inside, the capsule lid slowly started to close in on both of them. Then, before they realized it, their minds were completely transported to another space. Quinn was now in a large, empty white room. There were no walls in sight, and it looked like the room was endless. Suddenly, a screen appeared in front of him. "Welcome to Power Fighter. What would you like to do? Log in, register, play as guest." As Vorden had suggested for now, Quinn decided to play as a guest. Then he went on through the system and started to search for Vorden's gamer ID. Once he had selected to join the person's room, he patiently waited for Vorden to accept. "Room invite accepted. Transporting in 3, 2, 1. Then, in an instant, Quinn had been transported to another empty white space room. Only this time, Vorden was there as well, but Vorden didn't look like himself. He looked like a completely different person. Both his hands had been wrapped in bandages, and on his face he wore a scarf. He looked like an ancient ninja. Vorden, is that you?" "Oh, sorry," Vorden said, and the next second he looked like the ordinary Vorden at school. "What was that?" Quinn asked. "That, the game allows you to customize your character, so you can make it look like whatever you want. The clothes I was wearing a type of skin, although they cost credits, so I wouldn't worry about that." The sound of the game was just getting even better for Quinn. Allowing the users to create a character to be used in the game meant that no one would know it was him unless they knew his username. "Do you want to watch me play a few games so you know how the game works?" Vorden asked. "Sure." Vorden then created a party where Quinn was able to spectate. Suddenly, in the white space, 4 stands appeared forming an arena-like shape, and Quinn was teleported to the seating area in one of the stands. The game tried its best even for spectators to make it feel like the real thing. Once Quinn was comfortably seated, Vorden went to search for a match. Vorden selected the power level of 2. This way, he would only be matched up with level 2s. There was also a quick match option where it would match you with anyone who had selected the same option regardless of power level. The ability he currently had his character set to was Earth. He chose this because Vorden himself had been trying to learn the Earth ability better, so that way when Peter got stronger with it, Vorden would be able to help him use it. When an opponent was found, he too was teleported into space where Vorden stood. The two of them started out on the opposite side of the room, then Quinn could see a big countdown appear over the arena. When the countdown reaches 0, the match immediately began. Vorden was going up against another Earth user. Earth users were the most common ability to be found. The match didn't last long though, as it was clear that Vorden had the greater experience when it came to fighting. The match had only lasted a total of 5 minutes, but while watching the game, Quinn started to figure out how it worked. Above each player's head was a health bar, but there was no way to show how much health each player had. Judging by what Vorden had said, this was most likely because everyone had a different set of health, depending on what the VR headset was able to read from the body. Quinn himself knew this because of his inspect skill. Every time he would look at the stats of a different person, some of them had different amounts, and that included him. The next thing he noticed was the fact that there wasn't actually any damage done to the player. When Vorden would strike or stab a person, the system would cause the player to react to these, by startling the player, but it wouldn't permanently damage the person like it would have done in real life. Similar to a game, it would treat hits on vital parts as a critical hit, but the player could continue to fight like normal as long as their HP didn't hit 0. After that, Quinn continued to watch Vorden play a few more games, and before they knew it, their time was up. Although Quinn didn't have the time to play today, he couldn't wait to try out the machine tomorrow.
What hidden power is Vorden keeping from Quinn, and why can't he reveal it? How will Quinn adapt to this virtual world, and what challenges await him? Find out in the next episode.
Subscribe to the Pocket FM Fantasy YouTube channel and press the bell icon for instant notifications. Check out our channel for more exciting shows.